What up, 24-hour party people? 'Tis I, Tim the Brand Weaver. You have tuned in to Branding for Breweries yet again, because I know you love it. And today is very exciting for many, many reasons. First off, massive shout out to the brand new show sponsor, Charles Fareham, that you can see their logo below. If you don't know who they are, you've been hiding under a rock, honestly, but they provide some of the best hops in the game. So check out Charles Fareham, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for sponsoring the show. And today, ladies and gentlemen, who are we talking to? What are we talking about, I hear you ask? Well, my friends, 'tis naming. And it's not just any normal naming, it's how to name your beer. And I have lined up a very intelligent, very attractive gentleman to come and talk to us about this. This is the glorious Mr. Mike Gertz, the former creative director, as of around about a week ago, of Rhinegeist Brewery, which is, if you don't know, one of America's 20 largest craft breweries out there. He's named a load of beers, so he is one of the perfect guys to come in and chat about this. So that is enough of my waffle. Let's bring Mike in and let's have a good old chin wag. Mike, how are we doing?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome, my man. This has been an exciting one. I've been looking forward to bringing you on the show for a while now, so it's amazing to have you here. Where do we begin, my man? I suppose, Rhinegeist, American brewery, so some of the listeners here might not know who you are. So would you do us a favor and say hello, who you are and what you do, please?
Hello. As of last week, I'm the former creative director at Rhinegeist Brewery. I was there for almost 5 years. Rhinegeist is a regional craft brewery in the United States. So we're in the top 20. So large craft brewery, but not enormous, not small either. Kind of in this middle ground. And we're out of Cincinnati, Ohio, which is smack dab in the middle of the giant country. Pretty fantastic place.
Amazing. And what was it? It was like, did you say there was like more than 100,000 barrels of beer every year that Rhinegeist are kicking out, something like that?
Yeah, I think they're at about 114,000 now. So significant amount, a lot. And I think there's still the largest craft brewery in the state of Ohio. So big
numbers. And of course, you would have named a lot of beer during your time there, dude. So this makes you the perfect person for this conversation.
So many
beers. Right, let's cut to it, Mike. Why do you think naming beer has become like so much harder than 10 years ago, man?
Okay, well, Rhinegeist is a great example to demonstrate this. I joined the team in 2021, and at that time, the brewery was almost 10 years old. They started in 2013. In 2013, when Rhinegeist showed up in Cincinnati, Ohio, they were technically the 12th craft brewery, but they were kind of the new big modern craft brewery that we're familiar with like the modern craft movement. 2021, there were over 80 craft breweries in Cincinnati, Ohio alone. Multiply that by the number of cities in the United States or the world, multiply that by the number of beers by, all these breweries are making. There aren't enough words left to describe these beers. Like it's so difficult. So many things are taken, and to stand out and be distinct is really, really tough. On top of that, the stakes are higher than they've ever been, and beer names to a certain extent are subjective. That's part of it.
True. I've seen loads where I'm just like, that is a terrible name, but clearly other people are going to love it, man. That is the pain and the pleasure of a beer name.
Yes.
But I suppose ticking the box of going, it's available is one thing, but like, what would you say separates out like a great beer name versus just an average one that's been plucked out of wherever?
So availability, obviously, first and foremost. If it is legally available, which is hard enough, that's part of it. But then it should be distinct. It should describe, something about the beer or the place that it came from. Really, really good beer names make a connection back to the larger brand or the attitude of the place and the beer, and they make that connection, which is really nice. At Rhinegeist, we always call it a stickiness factor too. If you've got a name that sticks in the mind or lingers in there, it's not generic. It has like a pinch of weird. It's got enough of style and flair that it's a good bar call. And you're gonna, when you order one, it sounds good, or when you tell your friend about it, it sounds good. That's a big part of it. Also, you get bonus points if it's platformable, and you can riff on the name and create other beers with it. That's amazing. That makes naming for your future family even easier. And then they should be inclusive too. And you got to find a way to bring as many people in as possible.
Okay, so if we take that from like Rhinegeist example, then you've got this kind of framework that you work to within the names. But did you sit down and agree like this is what the names have to be, or did it develop over time?
A little bit of both. I mean, I tried multiple, principles and rubrics and all kinds of ways. You still get subjectivity involved. You can still get stakeholders or people that don't like it, and you got to go find new stuff. But yes, that stuff helps so much to kind of agree on either what makes a good name, what do we think makes a good name, or what makes a Rhinegeist name, a Rhinegeist. To have any sort of idea of what that is, it makes the pool smaller. It gets the conversation into a much richer place.
And like you say, like making a Rhinegeist name. So how much is it weighted? Is it like it's 50% got to reflect the Rhinegeist brand and 50% got to reflect the actual liquid? Or like where do you recommend putting the focus with the name?
It's every brewery is unique, and every then product from the breweries are unique too. So Rhinegeist example is pretty good because they're at an age and a size where they've got a large portfolio, and they have beers and other products that aren't beers that are super connected to the brewery, and some that aren't, and they're intentionally not, so that they can try to go get a new audience. Craft beer's funny because it's so local, like it's the farther away Rhinegeist would get at trying to sell beer, the harder it gets. So having the connection to Rhinegeist or the city of Cincinnati is really big locally. So we have I keep saying we like I still work there.
It's they now.
they have a light beer that's called Cincy Light. And it was intentionally a little bit of a step away from the Rhinegeist name, even though it has the Rhinegeist logo on the can. But that beer does very well in Cincinnati. No one had that name. It was available. It also has a connection to a local university, and it's become super rich. The flagship beer is Truth. It has super simple name. It was the first beer they had, Truth IPA. At the time, it was the first like really good West Coast IPA in Cincinnati. So people kind of got it. They're like, oh, this is the Truth. And because that had success, there's kind of a history of these super simple, little clever names at Rhinegeist. So the most geisty, we would call it, the most geisty names would be super simple, little clever, and platformable. So Truth now has a whole family. There's Truthadelic, there's Half Truth, there's Truth Bomb, all these different truths, and they kind of riff off of each other, and they sit on the shelf, and they're easier to shop now. Instead of just having a million different crazy names, like, oh, I like the Truth brand. Do I want the hazy one or the high ABV one or the low ABV one? There's a whole collection.
So that's really interesting then. So you gave two examples there, like Cincy Light, which has it's locked into a location. So really strategically powerful, within a region. But then Truth, that's a much broader name, right? It must travel much further. And
yes,
does it break the location side of things quite successfully, or because the Rhinegeist Brewery brand was so dominant, like it's still associated with the location?
It was the original beer from Rhinegeist. So it has a different kind of power. It's not just the name that made it powerful. It's also the fact that it was first. So from a positioning standpoint, positioning consumers' brains, that name's been around for a minute. And, it had a way higher chance of success in 2013 than it would have now in 2026. I think if Rhinegeist didn't exist and they showed up today and they made a beer named Truth, it might not have the exact same power. But because it was first and there's been this building on it over time, it's been able to spread way farther than Cincinnati for sure.
And I suppose, like you say, if they came out with Truth now, probably Truth as a name is going to be taken. Like, it's such a
Yeah, yeah,
simple and easy word, right? You can't get that now.
oh yeah, can't
So
imagine.
it's would you say it's more of a brand strategic choice from the brewery? If they wanna own a space, then they can leverage the location, the namings, and the cultural elements within that. But if they're growing, it's better to think broader, like the Truth naming.
Yeah, I think so. And you probably want to hedge your bets at this point too, and kind of be working both strategies if you can. And it depends on your size too. I mean, if you're a small local brewery, it makes sense to own your neighborhood, own where you're from, like play on the funny things that people say or the weird sign down the street, like own those things because people will get it and they'll think it's funny or they'll charming and they'll understand it. The farther away you get, the harder it is, but that's where you might want to try something that has broader appeal or relates to the entire region in a way. You know, we Rhinegeist came out with Cincy Light, and then immediately another brewery in Ohio, and we had success with it very quickly. Another brewery came out with Ohio Light, and they were trying to do the broader thing. And then at the same time, the same summer, Boston Beer, Sam Adams, which is enormous in the United States, they came out with American Light. So in one store, you could get the city, the state, and the country.
Did anyone
Also,
then release the World Light? Like,
yeah,
did they just win
Earth Light.
global light?
Yeah.
So I've seen both sides of the spectrum, like some really creative beer names, but then on the other side, some like proper straight cut best bitter. Like basically, this is the kind of beer. Like there's no creativity to it. What's your advice when it comes to like what side of it you straddle in terms of like clarity or creativity?
I think both are super, super important. I would avoid both extreme ends of the spectrum. If you zoom out even away from beer, the like people name things. We name our dogs, we name our babies, we name things on this planet. On one side of the spectrum, you've got scientific names, like the names of the animals that are, that anybody in any language can refer to. There are names of famous institutions. They're really straightforward. They're like they're made for a catalog, organizational purposes. On the other side, I think of like cannabis strains and race horses and boat names. They're like intentionally supposed to be as silly as possible. That's what makes them fun. And beer is annoyingly in the middle, but like a little silly. So the subjectivity's all over the place, but finding that balance is really, really important. You don't want your beer to be as straightforward as, the genus and species of a particular bird. You don't want it to be so silly that it's people don't really take it seriously. Some really good names I found ways to straddle both and to, allude to the style of the liquid a little bit. Maybe it's a high ABV beer, so it has, extra intensity to the name, but it still has a little charm and a little wit to it. Those names are both helpful from a shopping standpoint, but still memorable. That's the sweet spot.
Yeah, I like the way that you don't necessarily have to say high ABV, but there's a lot of language that suggests power and
Yes.
strength in there, right? So it's
Yeah.
kind of the Easter egg naming element of it all. It keeps delivering. So when you and the team were coming up with names, like would you, obviously you go, right, okay, these are available. We've got it down to a pool of 3 or 5 names. Do you then like just decide amongst yourselves how it works? Did you get the public opinion on it? Like how did you come and how did you narrow it down to the one that went on the can?
Okay, so it depends on the size of the bed of the product. A draft beer, it's just going to be a draft only in the tap room. They're not overfussed. Anybody can name them, and a lot of times either the brewer that has made the beer or a bartender or someone in the hallway will end up naming those beers. And honestly, sometimes they're the best. They're not overthought. We're not doing giant legal checks and trademark searches. It's just going to be on tap in the bar, and it's probably fine. We have gotten some super funny cease and desists on taproom only beers, which is crazy. One was from the Tolkien group, which is like framed at Rhinegeist somewhere because they named a beer Numenor. Watch out for the Tolkien group. They're real serious. The if the beer needs to play a portfolio role, it then has to be approved by more people. Vice president of sales, vice president of marketing, the CEO, the founders. And the more people you get involved, the more opinions there are, the higher the stakes are, the more difficult it is. So if there's a new product that is a really big deal for next year, from a creative direction standpoint, if it's part of a brand family, so if it's a Truth, it's going to have the name Truth in it, or it's going to allude to Truth. That's easy enough. It's going to go through the approvals, or it's going to be a Cincy Light riff. Got it. Seasonal beers for Rhinegeist, they all are person, place, or thing. And they also, there's kind of an easy rubric there to evaluate. It's a little more ambiguous, but then if there's a new product, a brand new beer, something that was never hit the shelves, not going to be part of a brand family, it gets really hard. And that's when, so our team is generating tons of names. Rhinegeist has an amazing copywriter named Ram who does fantastic job. Plus the design team, other folks are coming up with names as well. We've got a big list. At this point, names and the deeper idea, the creative part of the beer, the brand, the potential of the brand, they're both kind of in play. And so we're not only presenting just a giant list of names to choose from, we're also alluding to where we want to take the name. So there's a little bit more salesmanship involved. We'll use mood boards or short descriptions so that we're not doing too much work for all of these different names. But the hope is at that point, there's something in there that's starting to stick, that's starting to work. Even with all of that, it's still sometimes very, very difficult because you're simultaneously, not only are you doing a trademark search, also going through Untappd to see, okay, it might not be trademarked, but if someone's using that name already inside of our market, we probably don't want to use it. It's that one feels like we're stepping on their toes. And then two, it's already in the consumer's mind somewhere. So the size of it, is it draft only? Is it on the shelf? You have to weigh all those things. 10 years ago, if a beer was being made with a specific name anywhere in our market, we wouldn't put it out there. The times have changed because so many things are being used. You can look up some names on Untappd and there'll be 40 beers named that name because no one's trademarked it. So everyone's kind of playing in the thing. All of those things have to be weighed. Those are really, really tough.
You just wonder why more breweries just don't go down the beer one route, beer two. It's probably been done several times, right?
Well, I wonder, I've had this funny thought that we've run out of names and that we're going to get to this place where I remember in the 1990s when there were AOL screen names. Did you all have?
Yeah, of course.
Screen names, like the instant messenger names. I remember one of my friend's screen names. It was Gopher Nuts 420. Super silly, totally ridiculous. We're almost there in craft beer where we're going to have silly stuff plus some numbers with weird capitalization.
Dude, I think you're onto something. What was it? It was Bring Me the Horizon's latest album. They use that kind of name. You put zeros in where there should be O's, and they're using various glyphs and stuff. Dude, I'd love that. That's got a nostalgic kind of millennial vibe to it.
I mean, that's what our kids are going to be drinking. They're going to be drinking some numbers and symbols.
Mate, okay, everyone, you heard it here first. It was Mike's idea. You got to shout him out. You got to credit him. But that's a wicked idea, buddy. I love that. Yo, I just want to take a second out of Branding for Breweries to make you aware of something. For those of you who don't know, outside of hosting Branding for Breweries, writing the book Branding for Breweries, I also provide independent breweries with hands-on support with their branding, design, and marketing. In fact, it's even better than that because it's not just me, it's a whole bunch of awesome independent brewery folks who are dedicated to doing the very best for each and every independent brewery. The team have worked with some incredible breweries like Northern Monk, Osset, Brains, Pillars, all over the globe, and gaining results like doubling revenue, winning Rebrand of the Year, even gaining over 7 million views on the TikTok channel. So if you're looking to level up your brewery's branding and marketing this year, drop us a message over at www.thebrandweavercollective.com and a member of the team will get back to you and we can have a chat. Now, back to the show. Okay, so let's try and think about this from a process side of things to help people with their naming, because clearly it's so damn hard. That's what the title of the show is. So if I get this right, you set out what it is to be Geisty, what Rhinegeist is as a brand.
Yeah.
But then you come down into, right, what part of the brand is this? Like, is it part of the Truth brand?
Yes.
Is it part of the Cincy brand? Is it a new development? And then I suppose you have to set up a new set of boundaries within that area.
Yes.
Where do you look for inspiration at that point of going, right, well, we know what our main brand is, but so we're swimming in a slightly smaller swimming pool, but now we still need to be inspired and come up with something unique.
So assuming it's not part of another brand family, those are all those are the easy ones. If we're creating something new, it's still, if it's Rhinegeist specific, so we're at least in that pool. The next place, you've got the liquid and the consumer. So the liquid is going to hint at a specific occasion, a drinking time. Hazy drinking occasion might be different than a session, different than, super high ABV. Is it a fruited beverage? Is this a fruit beer? Is this a summer thing? Is this a winter thing? Like, those all are going to help significantly too. So is this almost like a better for you, super locale play? Or is this a classic West Coast IPA? And we want to be forward about the hops. Maybe it's single hop, and then you can use the name of the hop inside of all of those ways will help craft from a stylistic standpoint of the product that's been made. And then you've got your consumer. So the consumer in Cincinnati, Ohio is different than the consumer in the UK, period. We're different. We like different things. We've got, we both like beer, but we've got different sports teams. There's just a subtle different culture, and then there's like micro cultures, of course, in any state or country. So, I'm in Ohio. We have 3 big cities here: Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. Each one of those cities, there's different loyalties, different interesting things about those specific people. In Cleveland, they've got Lake Erie, lake effect. It's way colder there in the winter. They've got, I guess they have equally miserable sports teams as Cincinnati, but it's a different world, even though the people look similar. And playing into cultural things about the specific people that may be enjoying the product, there's a rich place to pull from there that could be interesting and funny or charming. And then you try to play the connection game. Can you connect all of those interesting things with something about the liquid? Maybe there's something there. And through it all, you're in a room with people just, having fun, throwing out interesting names. And a lot of times the ones that we all start laughing at, or like, oh my, that's so weird. There's usually something there. And you put a little star and you're like, okay, that one's pretty good. I like that one. And then we'll do our research too. So again, you got to take it with a grain of salt, because everyone feels a little bit differently, but we'll put all the names on the wall and we'll go through museum style, and everyone kind of votes. So you kind of at least get an idea of what people are gravitating toward. Bring in some people from the sales team, bring in some people from the tap room, get some more names. If it's really down the line of the process and you're down to like 3 really the contenders, the really good ones, we've got can designs now, different names. Maybe there's a whole brand world involved. Maybe we're looking into the future and seeing how they could platform. At Rhinegeist, at least, they'll do scrappy focus groups where they'll invite 10 people at a time and taste the product, do a blind taste test, and then we'll get really loose feedback from consumers, which for me, that's pulling back from, I used to work at brand agencies and did work for, big CPG giants. And that's how their process goes. They're eventually going to go talk to consumers. I think they take it way too seriously. What Joe from Kansas City says could affect their their final brand. But if you go into that space and you're just having a conversation with folks, you'll learn. Oh shoot, I didn't realize people were going to make that association with this. That's actually awesome and weird. Oh my gosh, now I've got ideas on how to activate this thing. Or you might find a red flag and someone could say, actually, one of the words in your name is offensive for these reasons. Maybe you didn't realize that. And then that one gets a big strike through. So that has helped us a lot in making, the very end decisions, picking the right thing.
I can just visualize you like with the CSI crime scene board with like loads of names and red ribbon kind of connecting the dots, being like, yeah, if we put that word there with that, it works. That's exactly how it is, right?
Exactly. It's exactly like that.
Like I was staring into the studio. No, you mentioned that like a red flag, which is completely possible. Like you've come up with a name, you think it's great, and then all of a sudden someone out of nowhere will be like, you can't use that. Like when's the right time for a brewery to walk away from something like that? Because one person just goes, you can't use that. Are we safe? Or what's your advice on that?
Yeah, it's there is some gray area sometimes because words have multiple meanings, and there are so many cultures and languages and understanding where you're at. But if you start, I mean, the second you are feeling that, it's probably a sign. It's probably out. But for the most part, the size of the company that Rhinegeist is, they're going to walk away from anything that is even close to being, mildly insensitive. They're not going to do that. But then the legal ramifications for that are actually more difficult to navigate. In 2026, what something is going to be insensitive or not, especially when you get the context, and after a quick Google, you're going to be able to figure that stuff out. The legal stuff is way murkier. It's crazy. The laws are not clear, and craft breweries, to afford a lawyer to actually vet all of this stuff for you and to then tell you what the risk is, it's tough. It's really, really tough. I always like Rhinegeist has a lawyer they'll occasionally use, but they do it reluctantly because it's expensive. It's hilarious. Every time there's names in there, it feels like the risk is always moderate. Like the legal advice is always like, yeah, maybe. Like, oh, thanks for that. Yeah, what do we do? So there's the legal risk of things is really tough. There's a way to search trademark stuff online, at least in the US, and it'll at least tell you if something's taken in your class. So if something's taken in beer, all right, it's out, gone, easy. But if things are taken in adjacent categories like wine or spirits, it can get really murky and weird. And the lawyers will tell you they may or may not say something to you. And then like the Tolkien thing, you can get from, oh, we had no clue that you couldn't name that thing, that was this like super special property, but it can come at you from so many different angles. So that stuff happens. Rhinegeist had some multiple interesting cease and desists over the years that, there's no way we were going to foresee them. But when they came in, they were like, oh, okay, got it.
Slap on the back of the wrist. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
So there's the legal potholes, there's the trademark consideration, keeping it on brand. But something that I've come up against, when I design, is actually the practicality side of things of some names. And I know you said like at one point you'll get into mock-ups and things, but what about recommendations on like word lengths? Like if you've just got a really long word, it's a nightmare to stick on a can.
Oh my gosh, yeah. A super long name. I mean, unless that's the joke that makes it unique, which is possible that could work, but that's a nightmare for a graphic designer. You're staring at some giant words and phrases. That is tough. It's also hard for the consumer to remember the longer they get. So rule of thumb, shorter is usually better. And there's plenty of exceptions to that. I mean, it's funny. Sometimes I'll be counting syllables in my head, like, how many syllables is that? Like that's too many. That's like, there's no way that's not a good bar call. No one wants to go order something that has that many words in it. In the designer thing, have you experienced this where you're like, you're trying to make a logo out of a word and you're staring at it. Like, man, the letters look weird all of a sudden. Like it starts to get strange. Like, why is it spelled like this? Even if it's like a common word. So the way the characters, the actual letters interact with each other is part of it. And sometimes it's better than others. I mean, for any logo designer out there knows, if you can find a magic moment where the letters are talking to each other or they connect, or you can create an underline or build, you got something special. If you can find something like that, that's where it gets real good.
Yeah, I've had it. You just stare at a word for too long, it just doesn't make sense anymore. You don't even know that's not a real word. Like, who came up with this?
Yeah.
But yeah, as a plea from a designer to any breweries out there, just don't use like words which have like 25 syllables in, and we'll be happy people, right?
Oh, it's way too much.
What about the consumer side of things, their expectation around naming? Have you noticed anything which has changed over the time since you've been in the industry?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've seen a huge shift where, so go back 15 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years. I really 10, 15 years ago was the explosion of craft breweries, and everyone's opening them. You could put a lot of stuff on the shelf and it would sell. It would sell just fine. People were so excited to try them all and to give everything a shot. And there were some super silly names. There was like that was like the racehorse name phase of craft beer. People were putting all kinds of goofy stuff, and it kind of worked because the spirit of it was entrepreneur, not big corporate, that came through. Like, yeah, I want the silliest thing possible. I'm gonna go order that, and it tastes great. This is awesome. Now their competition's crazy. There's so many things on the shelf. Consumers are overwhelmed. They're so overwhelmed. They're looking at a shelf, even in your own home liquor store, beer store, grocery store, it's crazy. And there's a fatigue that's happened. So if you're a shopper, you're making decisions really quick, super fast decisions. A lot of it's subconscious, even though we don't want to think it's subconscious, but it is. You're either going to go to old reliable, something you can trust, and a lot of times that's the thing that was first, or the thing that you've tasted and is really good. And then the biggest shift I've seen in the names is they're more descriptive of what they are. So they're trying to do the trick of alluding to the style of the beer or the occasion. They're speaking more directly to the consumer, but still trying to retain their craftiness at the same time. And it's interesting. There's going to be a reaction to this eventually too, because if all of the breweries are doing that, it might seem lame eventually. But for now, for this era right now, knowing what it tastes like is important. And if the name plus the graphics play a role in that, and you can describe all of that, but if I know what to expect from the beer, from the name, from the brand, I'm more likely to give it a whirl, especially if it's something I've never had before. Have you seen the same thing in the UK?
Yeah, I think as I ponder it, I think you do start to see it is harder, and you still get some crazy names on the bar there, and it almost feels like it dates it a little bit. Some way it's just like, calm down, granddad. You had fun trying to name your beer. I get it, but maybe not for a newer audience. That there is this, treading the tightrope of, okay, people need to know what it is, but we still need to be a little bit creative in there. And I respect people for it. It's hard to do it. I've tried to do it myself, so it's an effort. Like, who have you got out in the States where you're like, that's actually someone who's nailed naming? They do it really well.
Oh man, I can think of specific names. I mean, Rhinegeist has done a good job. So they've done a good job. They've segmented their beers so they're easier to shop. People know what to expect. They've done a good job. And even in their like deep cut beers, like that are, you know, a variety pack exclusive, they've kind of figured out the secret sauce there to make them fun, but a little descriptive, and they're in a good spot. I really like Bellwoods. I Stay Classy is such a good name for an NA product. It does that exact thing where I'm like, oh, I know what that is. And then the can looks absolutely gorgeous on top of it. There are classics that have been good forever. Fat Tire comes to mind. It doesn't tell me what the beer is specifically, but it connects back to New Belgium's brand. You know, it connects back to this bicycle thing, and I just get it. I know what it is. It helps that it's been around for a really, really long time. Locally in Cincinnati, there are other great breweries here too. Mad Tree, who is one of Rhinegeist's main competitors, they've got a hazy IPA series called Seeing Colors. And the second I saw the name and the can, I'm Rhinegeist employee at this time, I was jealous. I was jealous right away. I was like, that's a good one. That's a good one. And they've platformed it. So that one's working out really well for them. Those are a few examples of good names out there.
Well, as you're saying them, like in my mind, it's probably a gauge of if it's a good name, because it's already conjuring up ideas and thoughts in my head about what that beer is, what that style is, or what I'm meant to be thinking. So actually, even without artwork or design, like what does that name provoke in the mind of your potential drinker? And if it's somewhat aligned, then you're onto a bit of a good thing, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, dude, let's bring this on home. You're sat chatting to a brewery owner. There's only 3 of them in the team. None of them are very creative. And they're just like, Mike, we got a new beer coming out, dude. But like, we've literally just been looking in the dictionary and pointing and hoping for the best for a name. What's your advice? Like, what are the 3 steps you're going to say? Like, sit down, do this, this, and this. That's going to get you closer to a better name that you can own.
Yeah, I would define, take a step back and define, you know, what your brewery stands for, your names, what your name is all about, why it's that name. That's where the richest stuff that you're going to pull from is at. Then the liquid. What is the purpose of this liquid? Is it part of a specific part of your portfolio, or is this something completely new? You know, who are you going after with this? And that brings you to the consumer. Who is going to drink this beer? Is this a new super fruity flavored thing that you're targeting a younger audience with? Or is this classic kind of craft beer? Is it a even old school style? Inside of just doing that exercise is going to eliminate an incredible amount of the dictionary, and you're going to start get to a rich place. And then I would recommend bring people in that are creative, that you can trust, and riff with them and create a bigger list. Get the list going. Start and be free about it. Think of silly stuff. Write all the weird stuff that comes down in your head. Don't be precious about it. Don't overthink it. Go crazy. And then you're going to have this garden of stuff. And you can try to start to evaluate where everyone laughed when we did that one. Oh, that one it's describing the liquid and it's still a little funny. Like, that's really good. Oh, this one's got a deep cut connection to our brewery that has amazing storytelling potential. Now you've got a small list that you can go vet it yourself, look them up online, see if they're taken or not. You'll have a good idea after Google search, trademark search, if you've got it in your country. And then the Untapped is really helpful too. And now you've got risk assessment, you've got some creative stuff that are interesting, and I'd shop them around, share them with other people in the company, and see what people are getting excited about or interesting about. And then decisions makers got to make a call.
Dude, see, now that just proves that you can't just come up with a name out of thin air. Like, there is a process and it needs some time. So don't go hoping you're going to get it in 30 minutes, people.
It does happen, Tim. It does happen. Sometimes you're just like cutting the grass or like taking a shower or like taking a dog for a walk, and it can happen. but it usually happens after you've been like stressing about it and pondering it for a really long period of time. And then, oh my gosh, that's it.
That's the next. But you've still got to go through, you got to check it, you got to get sign up, we get people's buy-in, right?
Oh,
So there's
yeah.
still. So you said about bringing people on board, riffing with people. Like obviously you're a man who is available for this kind of stuff now, right? So
this is true. This is a fact.
If as we bring this to the close, if people wanted to riff with you, Mike, and wanted to find out what you're doing and where your journey takes you next, where can we find you?
Yeah, I'm just getting going. I left an amazing job at Rhinegeist as the creative director to start my own thing and to, build my own creative business. You can find me on Instagram at GertzML, GertzML. I share my other passion there, which is birds, but and all kinds of other creative things and beer brands and all kinds of stuff. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm out there. I'll be posting things, and I'll be sharing my journey of starting a business from nothing, which should have some hills and valleys. I'm excited.
Dude, well, we'll put all your links in the show notes so people can get those, my man, so people can follow along with you. And
awesome.
For everyone who has tuned in today, I know we've got some people leaving comments now. It's amazing. Thank you for contributing. Stay tuned, guys. We've got more and more phenomenal guests coming up, just like the incredible Mike. Mike, my man, thank you so much for your time today, buddy. I really appreciate it. And everyone else, we'll see you on the other side. Rock on.
Cheers.
That's a wrap on this week's episode of Branding for Breweries. If you got something great from it, hit follow, like, and subscribe on your favorite streaming app. Or even better, leave a review, share it with your brewery pals, or get in touch, because I want to chat to you. Rock on!